everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a in-depth bookshelf tour. Last time I went over my TBR, so I figured it'd be good to also show you all of the books I have read and the ones I have here on my shelves. I have read more books than are on these shelves. A lot of them I got rid of when I was younger and stuff, but these are my current collection. Some old, some new. My bookshelves behind me are from IKEA, the iconic but basic Billy bookshelves. I have one of like the full-size Billies and then one of the half. I honestly already want another full one to go on the other side, but I just can't let myself do it yet. Even though there is still room on my shelves, I prefer like not to have all my books super packed because I like to have little decorations on my shelves and things like that too. Also, at the end of this, I will be counting all of the books I own, mostly just because I'm curious. I do kind of have a method to the madness on the shelves, but it's kind of loose. But I sort of, kind of divided them by genres. Okay, I have a feeling this is going to be kind of a long video because I'm definitely going to have a lot to say about a lot of these books, so let's get right into it. So first, I'll just talk about what's on top of my shelves. It's not the cutest, honestly, but I figured I'd still go through it. I just need to set this stuff up cuter. So the biggest things you'll notice are an Elphaba and Glinda doll up in the two corners, and also the pop, what are those called? Pop? I think pop figurines? Pop, 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 pop. Pop pop, y'all not y'all know that song. Anyways, my mom got all of that stuff for me for Christmas this past year, which was cute. And then over on the left side, I have a Beauty and the Beast snow globe. Fun fact, I used to collect snow globes. I used to have so many. Now I only have that one. Next to it, you could see a small, cute Belle figurine. I actually got that at this cool thrift store in Orlando that sells like a bunch of old Disney things, and even things that are like retired from the park, like old furniture from hotels. It's really cool. And then next to that, I have this Cinderella's carriage. It's from Bath and Body Works. It's actually like a candle holder, but I don't really use candles because my cat has asthma. So I just have it up there as like decoration. And then on the other side of the pop things, you can see a little TBR jar that I desperately need to fill out with all of my TBR books. If you're curious about what's on my TBR, I did do a full video, so make sure to go check that out. But I think I definitely want to fill out a bunch of cards, put them in that jar, so that way I can actually randomly pick out books, maybe for a video. Then I just have a fake plant. I actually had it down here, but my cat would not stop chewing on it, so now it's up there. And then I have kind of a piggy bank, a jar bank. And mostly it just has all these dollars from my grandma, because she, for like every like holiday, will send me a card with $1 in it that she's like decorated. So it's like decorated dollars that like have the date on them and stuff, which I think is really cute. Now on to the actual books. We're going to start here with my larger shelf. And I'm just going to go from the top to the bottom. Like I said, these are mostly loosely organized by genre, and up top, this is my fantasy shelf. Kind of these first two shelves are fantasy. Up here, I have one of my favorite series in the Shadowhunters world. They're all by Cassandra Clare. First, I have the Infernal Devices series, and then I have the Mortal Instruments series. I love these books. I read them when I was younger, early high school-ish. That was like one of the first series, that and the Hunger Games, that really like got me into reading. Also really was the catalyst of my Bookstagram. I think I said in my last video, I had a Bookstagram that started out as a Josh Hutcherson fan account. But this series really had me by the throat. I actually am more of a fan of the prequel, The Infernal Devices, than I am of the Mortal Instruments. And that sounds crazy because I absolutely love the Mortal Instruments, but this trilogy prequel rewired my brain when I was younger. The people in this book, like Jem specifically as a character, if you know, you know, it gets me. Up here, I also have a little duck. It's just like a little cute figurine duck that somebody just randomly walked up to me at Coachella last year and handed that to me. I put it there next to the Infernal Devices series, kind of, if you know, you know. Also, something that's really fun is my copy of City of Bones is signed by the movie cast. Unfortunately, the movie did flop, but there is a TV show called Shadowhunters. I think it's on Netflix. You should watch it. I watched the movie like once a quarter just to like feel something again. Jamie Campbell Bower is the lead. He plays Jace, and oh my god, he's perfect. But yeah, so this is signed by Lily Collins, Jamie Campbell Bower, and the person who plays Alec, I can't remember his name. But yeah, I was a huge fan when this movie came out. I dressed up to go to the premiere. I went to like a mall tour where I got to meet all of the actors and watch them do a panel. One day I'll have to do like a deep dive on my old Bookstagram because the lore goes crazy. And like at the time I went to this, I wouldn't say I was like famous on Bookstagram, but back then Bookstagram was so small that I had like 10K followers, and I had like that was a good following, you know? And it still is. Like that is a good following, but you know what I mean? Like people were coming up to me being like, "Oh my god, you're this." I don't know if I want to say the account cuz it is still like out there. So, I did private it, I think. But I'm going to have to do a deep dive, and then I'll definitely be talking more about this era of my life if I do that. But definitely you should read these. They're YA fantasy, but they're so good. So I have Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, Clockwork Princess, City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Glass, City of Fallen Angels, City of Lost Souls, City of Heavenly Fire. Next year, I just have some little Shadowhunters, like adjacent books, like the Codex. I have a Shadowhunter's Guide, the Mortal Instruments Companion, and just like a little book of quotes. Also, what's so funny to me is when I look at this series, why did like I have like some paperbacks, some hardbacks. Kaylin now would never. Kaylin, 12 years old, did not care. But like now when I look at it and they're not even, it really does kind of like bother me a little bit, but it's okay. And then I have a series that I don't think I've ever heard anyone else talk about on like BookTube or Bookstagram. It's obviously very old, but I was obsessed with this series when I was younger. It is the Iron Fae series by Julie Kagawa, I believe is her last name. It's like fae, fairy, like very heavily fantasy, but it is romantasy YA. There's this one scene in the first book, Iron King, that stuck with me so much. And it's basically, this isn't a spoiler because it happens very early in the book, but the main character's brother has like a doppelganger living in her house, and it like is locked in my brain, and the way they get to like this world is like through like a closet, kind of Narnia vibes. But I just love this series so much, and I mean, I don't know, like again, like this is a YA, like this is definitely for a younger audience, so I don't know if I read it now if I would be as obsessed with it, but when I was younger, I was eating this series up. The Iron King, the Iron Daughter, the Iron Queen, the Iron Knight, the Iron Prince, the Iron Trader, and the Iron Legends. So now we've continued on to the next shelf, which is still fantasy. First, I have, of course, Twilight and New Moon. I did not read past that. I like read these after I saw the movie. I don't even know if I actually finished New Moon. I love Twilight, and I would like to actually like try to finish this series because I know the books, I'm sure, are different than the movies. And I love the movies. I'm sure I'll love the books. So I definitely would like to give them a retry. I love all the lore around Twilight. So and since I love to read, it is insane that I haven't read all the Twilight books. Next, then I do have Nightlight, which is like a parody of Twilight. That was really fun. Really enjoyed that. The next series I have is another one that I read when I was a little younger, which is called The Immortals by Alison Noel. I love this series. I am missing the first book, and I'm pretty sure it's because I lent it to somebody and I never got it back, which is awesome. I believe the first one is called Evermore. And then I have Blue Moon, Shadowland, Dark Flame, Night Star, and Everlasting. I have lost the dust jacket to Everlasting, and I literally wrote on the front of the cover, I don't know. But I loved these books. They're kind of fantasy, but almost like sci-fi fantasy. This series is similar to the Mortal Instruments, where it's fantasy, but it takes place like in the real world. I don't know. I think there's a name for that sort of fantasy, but that's what those two are. I'm editing this video right now, and the word I was looking for is urban fantasy. Urban fantasy. These next three here, which I think are so pretty on the shelf together, are an interconnected series to the Immortals series. If I remember correctly, it follows the sister of the main girl here. Then I have a very small collection of Kingdom Keepers books, which were one of the very first larger series I read, and they're like pretty YA. These follow a group of teenagers that at night turn into holograms in the Disney World parks. And they like protect the parks and like Disney as a whole, eventually the world, from the villains of Disney. And I loved this series, and I'm so sad because these aren't all the books of the series, and I used to have all of them and like the OG covers. Don't know where those went. Here I have When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This one caused quite a stir. I remember when it came out, just I felt like there was a big divide on people that either like loved this book or hated this book. I liked this book. I don't remember exactly what I rated it at. I think I gave it like 4 stars though. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a thick book. It's a romantasy, but it has like very like high fantasy traits, if that makes sense. Like it didn't necessarily just feel like I was reading a romance when I was reading this book. I could see the rest of the series leaning more romance, but this one felt like I was truly like reading a fantasy with a romance subplot personally. But I say that as somebody that reads mostly full on romantasy. So if you're somebody that reads just flat out fantasy, then yeah, this will probably seem like romantasy to you. I am really excited for the rest of the series. Then we have one of the favorite covers I have on my shelf, which is Fall of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is one of my favorite authors. I'll get to more of her books later, but I loved this book. I am so upset that the other ones aren't out yet because I think this series is going to be definitely another one of my favorites. I just cannot wait. Let me just tell you why I bought it. I literally was at the store and I read the back of this book and I said, yes, I will be buying that. She lives by her intuition, he feeds on her pleasure. Yes, I ate this book up. I honestly have been thinking about rereading this book just because I like miss the way I felt when I was reading it. Lastly, on these shelves, I just have some little knickknacks. I have my bookmarks holder. I have a bunch of bookmarks. They're all very cute and I love them. And then I have a little like heart tray with pins that my friend actually had made for me. One is me, which I think is really funny. And then I have a little sign that I got from Etsy that says Kaylin's Library with a cute little cat sleeping. Now we're switching genres. So this shelf is my dark romance shelf. This is a shelf that I've recently obviously been really trying to build out and read more of because I am currently writing my own dark romance book. So, a big part of me reading more has been trying to find my line of dark romance because there definitely is a line. So, that's exciting. More to come on that. But let's get into the shelf. First, I have The Ritual by Chantel Tessier. I did not love this book. First of all, I have to say, I really dislike the cover. I think I just don't like covers with like faces on them. But I read this on my Kindle and it took me so long to get through. I don't know why. I really wanted to like it. And towards the end, I was like enjoying myself. Like, I think I gave this like a 3. It was just like okay, maybe a 2.5. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. However, I do want to read the other ones in this series. I don't think it's like the same people. I think it's interconnected if I'm right, but I'm not sure. I do want to read the others because I've heard the others are better. It was just like a slow book to me. The next books are probably the most insane on my shelves. These are the first 3 books in After. Yep, After We Fell, and After We Collided. There are more printed books. All of these by Anna Todd. If you don't know what After is, After was originally, and where I first read it, After was a Wattpad fanfiction written by Anna Todd about Harry Styles and the members of One Direction. I love having these on my shelves, honestly. I absolutely love having these on my shelves. I think it's so funny. I read the entire fanfiction. The entire thing is ginormous. And then I also read the physical first 3 books. When I tell you I was obsessed, I was genuinely so obsessed. I spread this gospel around my school. I had people on the football team reading After. I was a menace in high school with this series. Now I can admit that's insane. And I'm sure if I read it now, I would be disappointed in myself. But I can't blame little me. Also, if you're not going to read the books, I do highly recommend watching the After movies on Netflix, I think. Those are also just some of my guilty pleasure movies. Like, I love to watch those and just remember these times. Next, I have Story of O by Pauline Reggae. This is kind of like the OG 50 Shades of Grey, like OG, but it's not as much of a romance in my opinion. I have it on the shelf because it fits into dark romance to me, but it is sadder. But it is a really interesting book, especially if you're interested in dark romance and just like the evolution of it, I think. And also just different types, because I think this is kind of more risque in a way that maybe isn't talked about in a lot of other popular dark romance books, if that makes sense. Then I have Priest by Sierra Simone. Really funnily, this is the only book I have ever annotated, and I went crazy with the tabs. I was having so much fun when I read this book. As someone who grew up in the church and definitely has religious trauma, a smutty book about a priest was really really funny and like interesting to me, and definitely was hitting that religious trauma. And yeah, I had lots of notes for this one, and I think I did rate that 5 stars, but no, I think I gave it a 4 star because of the ending I really disliked. And then I read the next book in the series, which is just like a little novella called Midnight Mass, and I did not enjoy it as much, but there are more interconnected standalones within this series that I would like to read. Next, I have There Is No Devil and There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. These were like middle of the road for me. I enjoyed them, but I will say that recently this author made some mistakes. They've been pretty racist towards some groups of people in their newest books and have not handled it in the best way. So I probably won't be reading any more books by Sophie Lark. Next, I have Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver, which I absolutely love this book. It is just so funny. I think it is the perfect mix of dark romance and rom-com. It is just so enjoyable, and I don't know, I just loved this book, and it is like very inspiring to me. Butcher and Blackbird follows two main characters who are unalivers, and my book also follows two main characters who unalive people. It's very different, like plot-wise, than this story. I have been really like inspired by like the sense of rom-com energy in this book tied into a dark romance that I've been trying to emulate and like have that same feeling in my book as well. Next, which is pretty much the rest of this shelf, is one of my favorite series ever, which is the Ravenhood series by Kate Stewart. I could honestly go on about these books forever, so I won't, but all I'll say is it is Why Choose, Enemies to Lovers, Found Family. It has so many things that I love. It has honestly a lot of things that I didn't like either, and things that I wouldn't think I would enjoy in a book. I know that's so vague, but I don't want to spoil it, obviously, but certain tropes that I thought that I wouldn't like, I didn't mind in these books. I will say the first two are the best ones. The third one feels like it didn't need to be there as much, but I still really loved it. I actually just recently read these, but like listened to them. I did the audiobooks. Ooh, and I was sobbing just as hard as I was sobbing the first time I read this, specifically the second book and this One Last Rainy Day book. Yeah, they hit. So the reason I have two copies here, these are the original ones that I bought. I don't know if these are like the OG covers. I think they might be. And then these ones, except this top one isn't, but these three are the republished when she, I believe, like started with a new publisher, and they have some bonus scenes in them. The covers aren't honestly as different as I would like them to be. They're mostly just more vibrant, but I still did indeed buy them all. And I still haven't even read all the bonus scenes, so I really do need to do that. And then otherwise on the shelf, I have this little disco ball candle. I have like this journal that I got from Disney World that is the stained glass kind of window from Beauty and the Beast. And then on top of this stack, I also just have a crown that I also got from Disney World. And the reason I have it here is because this book on top is called One Last Rainy Day, The Legacy of a Prince, and it felt fitting. Now we've moved down to some of my regular romance-ish and general fiction. First, these 3 books over here are all holiday-themed romances. So I have The Ex-Hex, I have Wreck the Halls, and A Merry Little Meet Cute. I loved A Merry Little Meet Cute. It is, I think, the first book that I've read that has an openly and like obviously plus size character and main female character, which I absolutely loved, and I didn't know how much I needed it in a book until I read this book. If you're plus size or really anyone, I would absolutely read this book. Then I have This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I have If He Had Been With Me and If Only I Had Told Her. Both of those books absolutely destroyed me. And then I have The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight, which I've had for such a long time. And then I have my 2 Ice Planet Barbarians books here. These are more sci-fi romance. Oh, I skipped one, and it's literally one of my favorite books. Don't know how I did that. It's just so small. This is How You Lose a Time War. This is a sci-fi romance, and it's lesbians, love. That's crazy. I love a queer fiction. I'm trying to read more of them. Genuinely one of my favorite books I've ever read. I think it's so beautifully written. It's dual authors and they're both poets, so you really feel that when you're reading this book, and it is just beautiful. I don't even want to say much about it because I think you just need to go into it blind. I went into it blind. It's just one of those books that you have to trust. It's also only like 200 pages, so I read this in one day. Highly, highly recommend. Then I have some cute little book holders and a flower candle. And then over here, it kind of moves into general fiction ish. It's kind of, this is like a hodgepodge of books that I wasn't sure where to put exactly. First, I have this little, tiny little novella by Frederick Bachman, and it is called And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. This book is only like 75 pages, and I read it all in one night, and it absolutely tore my heart out. Like, tore my heart out. I've never sobbed harder. I definitely want to read more Frederick Bachman. I've heard only good things, so I'm definitely excited to read a full book by him. Then I have Never Let Me Go. I enjoyed it. It's not really my vibe, but I thought it was interesting. I have my two Madeline Miller books, both some of the best books I've ever read, Circe and The Song of Achilles. Both 5-star books, honestly, maybe 6-star books. I just am absolutely in love with these books, and I could talk about them forever, but I won't, and I just need you to go read them. Then I have Normal People by Sally Rooney. I am not as big of a fan as a lot of people are of this book. I just really hate a miscommunication trope, and that's what this whole book felt like, to be honest. Then I have Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I read this book apparently when I was a lot younger, but I do not remember it at all, and I have a really cool special version on my TBR. I'm definitely going to be rereading it. The Hole We're In by Gabrielle Zevin, I believe. I didn't love it. I'm just gonna be honest, didn't love it. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, really loved. Then I have my John Green books here, one of my favorite authors. I have Looking for Alaska by John Green here, which is my absolute favorite book in the world. I read this when I was younger and it has stuck with me, and I have reread it since then, and it still hits in the same way that it did when I was younger. I love this book to death, and I will say this is a book that is getting banned in a lot of places across our country, which is just so crazy to me. It is such an injustice. Like, this is a classic to me and was so important, I feel like, to my childhood. So I will definitely be leaving a link in my description to donate, or just things you can do to help stop this from happening as much as we can and do what we can. Then the other John Green ones I have here are Paper Towns, An Abundance of Catherines, and The Fault in Our Stars, of course. Now onto my last two shelves. My cat has decided to join us down here. So starting with this shelf here, this is where things start to get really loose on my genre splitting. Oh my god, why are you biting me now? Hey! Oh my god! No! Oh my god! Jax! No. Do I need to like lock you out? What's going on? This is where the shelf starts to get really loose with genre, but this shelf is kind of my thrillers, and then YA dystopian / YA sci-fi, and then nonfiction. So first we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, Murder in the Family by Kara Hunter. This book was really interesting. I didn't fully finish it, to be honest, but it is like a thriller, but it's written as if it were a TV script. You're trying to figure out who the killer is before the end of the book, basically. So you're kind of like workshopping with them. I have Red River 7 by A.J. Ryan, That's Not My Name by Megan Lally, The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine, Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Parks. I will say these two books felt very similar to me, and maybe that's just me, but If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, 13 Reasons Why, I've had this one for a while, Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, Lucy Foley's The Guest List, Bunny by Mona Awad, I'm not sure how you say her last name, I believe that is. I loved Bunny. I've read like an okay amount of thrillers, but I wouldn't say it's my number one genre. Bunny is like a mix between a thriller and a horror kind of, and it is so interesting, and it's very like kind of crazy girl energy, which I love. I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel, also very crazy girl energy. And then now we move into kind of this YA dystopian, YA sci-fi world. One of my favorite series of all time, Divergent, Insurgent, and Allegiant. And then also the 4 book, which is about Tobias. And then I have The Maze Runner. I did not read this full series. I only read the first one, but I liked it. I don't really know why I didn't read the rest of the series. Then we have the Unwind series here. Unwind, Unholy, and Unsouled. I believe I actually read those books in school, like in like middle school, but then I continued the series on. If I remember correctly, it's about like people who are made out of other people's body parts. Maybe if that's not right, I don't know what these books are about, to be honest. Then we have this cute little candle that my friend made for me, and then my nonfiction section. So first we have just this little tiny book that is called We Should All Be Feminist. And then I have Educated by Tara Westover, which is a really good and interesting book. I listened to the audiobook and oh my gosh, it's just so interesting. I want to read her mother's book from her point of view as well, not because I think it would change my mind, and I also don't want to read it because I don't want to give her money, but I am so curious. And then I have Conversations on Love by Natasha Lunn, which I loved. I also audiobooked that. And then one of my favorite books ever, Everything I Know About Love by not Dolly Parton. Dolly Alderton. Dolly always on the mind. Every single Dolly. Everything I Know About Love fundamentally changed me as a person, I think, and definitely rewired my brain a little bit. I highly recommend it, especially if you're somebody who has never really been in a long-term relationship, and if you're older or in your 20s. I think everyone should read it, but specifically people like that. Feminism is for Everybody by Bell Hooks, and Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. I know Jax is kind of blocking the bottom shelf here, but I am going to go ahead and start. I'm going to run through these ones really quick though, because these are all very random. We've got a writing journal down here. I have Integrated Korean Beginner 1. I studied abroad in Korea for a while and I was learning, so that's why I have that. Disney Trivia from the Vault. Disneyland's Hidden Mickeys, Walt Disney World's Hidden Mickeys, The Hidden Magic of Walt Disney. Junior by Thomas Kemney. I'm not sure how to say this last name, but it's called Junior. This is actually a book I got for college when I was going to school for copywriting and advertising, and it's a really interesting book. Do Hard Things, The Solo Travel Handbook, Manifest, Hexing the Patriarchy, A Moment to Breathe. This is actually a devotional book that one of my friend's moms got for me. The Four Agreements, classic therapy book. How to Be Interesting, Badass Affirmations, of Little Book of Confidence, and then it's like a little book about LA. And then I have all of these books, which I love. They're all called like a little bit of. So I have a little bit of tarot, a little bit of mantras, a little bit of goddess, and a little bit of crystals. And then all my poetry books. Yesterday I Was the Moon, The Sun and Her Flowers, Milk and Honey, Beautiful Chaos, Please Don't Go Before I Get Better, I Wrote This for You, A Work in Progress by Connor Franta, shout out OG YouTube, The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one, and The Princess Saves Herself in this one. So those are all the books on my main bookshelf, and now we're going to move over to my half Billy shelf, which is where I have all of my favorites. It was hard to choose, honestly, what ones got the spots over there, but basically this next section is just all of my favorites. Okay, I cannot get on the floor again because my cat will not stop attacking me. Sorry about that. But here, starting on the bottom of my favorite shelf is, of course, The Hunger Games, the reason for me being the way that I am today. So it's just my prized little shelf here. I have the original trilogy, The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay. And then, of course, the prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I am so excited for Haymitch's book coming out, Sunrise on the Reaping. I cannot wait. These are some of my oldest books, and I will cherish them forever. Next here, we have my Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lila Sage. My just favorite ever. I love this cowboy romance series. It just makes me so happy. It's so wholesome while also definitely being spicy. These are also just the most beautiful covers I've ever seen in my life. These are without a doubt my favorite covers I own. They're beautiful. I cannot wait for the next one because I'm gonna have to switch up the way I have them displayed. They're such like feel-good books. I've always read these like in between big fantasy series, and they're just like the perfect little break because they're like very sweet, not like too deep, but they still have like really good underlining meaning, but they're just really good, easy to read romances. Highly recommend, especially if you're into a cowboy. My favorite of all three of them is definitely Swift and Saddled. So each book follows like a different member of this family that owns Rebel Blue Ranch. Swift and Saddled follows the older brother and this new girl to town, and it's just to die for. I just eat it up every time. Next is my Emily Henry shelf, my absolute favorite romance author. I could go on about her for forever, but I'm sure you've heard it all, so I won't. But I have every single book. I also have them in order of how much I enjoyed them. I obviously love every single one of these books, but the order that I would choose for my little ranking would be number 1, Funny Story, then Happy Place, then Book Lovers, then Beach Read, and then People We Meet on Vacation. Argue in the comments. I think the weirdest thing is that I don't know why I don't have Happy Place like up here, and then I don't know why I have them that way. And then one of my prized possessions is this UK cover of Beach Read. I just think this cover is so pretty, and I literally randomly found this in a bookstore in Orlando, Florida. But I love it, and I would love to collect more covers of all of these. And I'm so excited for the movie for People We Meet on Vacation. Tom Blythe being in it is, I literally just can't even think about it, but I just absolutely love Emily Henry, and I love these books. And because of the color palette, like, look at this shelf. Come on. Come on, look at this shelf. It looks so good. Next, I have my Fourth Wing shelf. It is missing Iron Flame right now because I lent it to a friend. Also, I'm currently reading Onyx Storm, so that will be added to this very shortly. But I love this shelf. This is one of my favorite shelves that I have on my bookshelf. I have the holiday edition of Fourth Wing. I just have the regular version of Iron Flame, and then I have these two beautiful special editions of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. They're both from Acryla Books on Instagram. These sprayed edges are everything to me. The detail of Xaden like looking down at Violet and their height difference and the colors. I also love the like gold foiling. It's just, they're absolutely gorgeous. Then I have this 3D printed like dragon that I got from TikTok Shop, and I just love it because it looks like Terran, and I just love the way the claws are like on the sprayed edges. I love it so much. I love this shelf. Then I have my favorite shelf, because it's my favorite series ever, is a Flesh and Fire series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I also have this little 3D printed dragon. It came with this big dragon. This one I have front facing is the last book in the series, but I just think it's so gorgeous and I loved it. This series is everything. It's actually the prequel to the next shelf that you'll see, but I actually ended up liking the prequel even more than the main series. I just can't even describe how much I love this series. It's a romantasy series. It is so amazing. It still has like really like deep themes. Definitely like trigger warning for SA in this series. Specifically, if I remember correctly, specifically the last 2 books. But I just absolutely love the series. I love every single character in it. Probably my favorite book boyfriend of all. Ash would die for that man. I genuinely, like, when I think about it, it makes me like, I feel sweaty. My favorite book in the series is A Light in the Flame. All the books are called Shadow in the Ember, A Light in the Flame, A Fire in the Flesh, and Born of Blood and Ash. Okay, we have made it to the last shelf. I'm tired. Last but not least is my From Blood and Ash series, also by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Like I said, this series, the Flesh and Fire series, is the prequel to From Blood and Ash. I do think that they're going to combine, and I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but there's one more book in From Blood and Ash, and the way the prequel series ended, it's complete, but it doesn't feel truly complete, and I do think that we'll be able to see these characters in the next book of this one, which I am beyond excited for. This series is actually also the series that got me back into reading after like years, honestly, of not really reading. So in early 2023, maybe 2022, 2023, I read this series, and it just like sent me into the spiral that is what my deal is now. So it really re-sparked my love for reading. So I am like eternally grateful to this series. And yeah, it's a romantasy also. It's kind of like vampires and werewolves, but in a way that I've never seen before. So it doesn't feel like your typical vampire and werewolf, and it doesn't even really read as that. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you're in a reading slump, to pick this up. It is so good. I will never shut up about the series as a whole, all of them, or about Jennifer L. Armentrout. I love you, girl. The last step in this video is to count every single book on my bookshelf and see how many books I own. I just counted all my books and I have, drumroll, 161 books. That feels like a great number to me. I'm happy with that number. I would love more, but with the space I have, 161 feels right. I also do have 52 books on my TBR, so I have closer actually to a little over 200 books in this room. But that's just a happy little number. Maybe one day I'll get to that, what is it, 1,000 to be a library officially. I don't know if that's a goal, but that would be cool. I'm happy with all my books. I love my books. It's a lot of books. 100 and whatever I just said. Wow, my memory is so bad. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my in-depth bookshelf tour, and I hope you maybe found a new book that you're interested in. If you've read any of the same books as me, definitely let me know, and let me know if I've read your favorite book. And if I haven't, please let me know what that is so that way I can read it. I will see you guys next time.